started as a routine interview, but what happened next left the entire nation in disbelief. The cameras rolled, the studio lights gleamed, and the polished set looked like any other political talk show. Viewers at home settled in for what they assumed would be another scripted exchange, political talking points, rehearsed smiles, and careful nods. But the air in the studio was charged with an intensity no one expected, and within seconds, that calm facade shattered. Kellyanne Conway, renowned for her sharp tongue and fiery confrontations, leaned forward, her voice rising. What began as a pointed question quickly escalated into a full-throated yell. "You don't understand the implications," she shouted, eyes wide, pointing aggressively across the desk. The microphone caught every syllable, every tremor of rage that seemed almost impossible to control. It wasn't just a disagreement, it was a volcanic eruption of emotion that no one saw coming. Across from her, Jasmine Crockett remained perfectly still. Her posture was calm, her voice measured, a stark contrast to Conway's storm. The studio audience gasped audibly, and the camera panned across their shocked faces. Some instinctively leaned forward, unable to look away. Some whispered into their sleeves. Caught between disbelief and curiosity, everyone watching sensed they were witnessing more than a clash of opinions. They were witnessing a battle of character, a confrontation that would not soon be forgotten. Every second of Conway's yelling seemed to amplify the tension, and yet Crockett's serene demeanor created an almost unbearable contrast. Her eyes didn't waver. Her hands stayed folded. She let Conway's words hang in the air like smoke, absorbing the chaos around her without flinching. It was a study in restraint, a display of control that drew viewers in, compelling them to pick a side without ever leaving their couches. By the time the segment cut to a brief commercial, social media notifications were already lighting up. Clips of the eruption had begun circulating online, the first sparks of a viral storm that would engulf the internet. This wasn't just a television moment, it was a defining instant that could shape reputations, ignite debates, and set the tone for discussions far beyond the studio walls. The nation, glued to their screens, could feel it. Something unprecedented was unfolding. And what happened next would make it clear that this confrontation was only the beginning, that the real story, one of composure versus chaos, was about to ignite in ways no one could have predicted. The moment in that studio was not just another heated exchange on cable news. This was a collision of power, ideology, and perception, all unfolding under the unforgiving glare of live television. Kellyanne Conway, a political strategist with a reputation for taking no prisoners, was facing Jasmine Crockett, a rising star known for her measured voice and steadfast commitment to truth. The stakes were monumental. Every word, every expression, and every pause had the potential to define public opinion, shape policy debates, and send shockwaves through social media. At the heart of the discussion was a topic that had already divided the nation, a contentious policy issue that touched on justice, identity, and the responsibilities of leadership. Viewers weren't just watching a verbal sparring match. They were watching the embodiment of two opposing philosophies. Conway, aggressive and unflinching, represented the old guard of combative political strategy, domination through volume, spectacle, and intimidation. Crockett, calm and precise, stood for integrity, reason, and the courage to hold power accountable. The contrast was stark, and the audience could feel it in their bones. In that moment, the cameras did more than capture images, they magnified power dynamics that many Americans felt in their own lives. Conway's raised voice, sharp interruptions, and piercing gaze conveyed a warning. Dissent would not be tolerated lightly. Every syllable she spat out was designed to unsettle, to rattle nerves, and to assert dominance. But across the desk, Crockett's composed silence and measured responses projected strength of a different kind. The kind that demands attention not through intimidation, but through credibility, intellect, and moral clarity. What happened next would spread like wildfire online, and nobody saw it coming. Clips of the confrontation were already being dissected by pundits, tweeted by journalists, and dissected in comment sections across platforms. Every viewer at home felt the tension of this unprecedented exchange, as if they themselves were part of the studio audience, holding their breath, waiting to see who would crack first. The stakes weren't confined to the broadcast. They were alive in feeds and timelines and in group chats, igniting debates about character, composure, and leadership. It wasn't just about winning an argument on television. This was a defining cultural moment, a reflection of what the public valued, what Americans admired, and what they would reward with attention, shares, and loyalty. In an era when viral moments shape reputations faster than speeches or press releases, this confrontation had the potential to amplify or devastate the legacies of both figures. And in a polarized society hungry for heroes and villains, the spectacle promised more than just news coverage. It promised identity validation, moral alignment, and a chance to witness courage under fire. Conway's fiery persona made the scenario even more volatile, unpredictable, unapologetic, and mercilessly theatrical. She thrived on chaos and confrontation. The nation had learned to expect the unexpected whenever she appeared on camera, and tonight was no exception. Crockett's calm would be tested like never before. Her resolve measured against a torrent of aggression designed to provoke, to stabilize, and dominate. The tension was a living thing, pressing on every viewer. Whispering a single question, could composure truly withstand raw fury? As the debate raged, it became clear that this wasn't just a TV segment. It was a high-stakes contest of character, an emotional battleground where every second mattered, and where the world would soon witness whether dignity could outlast spectacle. Kellyanne Conway was never just another voice on television. She was a force of nature, a strategist whose name carried weight in every corridor of power. From the earliest days of her career, she had demonstrated a remarkable ability to dominate conversations, to bend narratives to her will, and to leave adversaries reeling in the aftermath. Political campaigns, media interviews, and crisis management situations had all become her proving grounds, arenas where she learned that volume, aggression, and timing were as much weapons as facts or logic. To watch Conway speak was to witness confidence bordering on audacity, a boldness that often felt unshakable. Her rise in the political world had been meteoric. She navigated the treacherous waters of partisan politics with a mixture of intellect, cunning, and a performance instinct that few could match. She knew how to read an opponent before a word was spoken, how to anticipate a challenge and strike preemptively. On television, this translated into a presence that was impossible to ignore. Sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through hesitation, a tone that could command a room, and interruptions delivered with a precision that left her targets struggling to regain footing. Audiences learned early that when Conway was on screen, the rules were hers. Over the years, countless confrontations had showcased the extremes of her temperament. There were moments when journalists, politicians, and pundits found themselves flustered by her relentless pace, her insistence on controlling the narrative, and her unapologetic disregard for conventional civility. She didn't merely argue, she performed, and the performance was calibrated for maximum impact. Each shout, each pointed accusation, each dismissive gesture was a carefully deployed tool in a repertoire honed over decades. Arrogance, some would say, but others recognized a genius at work, a woman who had mastered the art of commanding attention in a world where attention itself was currency. Yet, that very dominance came with a recurring pattern. Conway's confrontations often left her targets rattled, but they also set up the possibility of missteps. History had shown that those who relied on sheer force of personality, on theatrics and intimidation, could be undone by someone who refused to be intimidated, someone who could meet fury with calm, spectacle with dignity. Every shouting match, every viral outburst, was a double-edged sword, a display of power, yes, but also an exposure of vulnerability if met by the right adversary. On air, Conway's tactics were consistent and unmistakable. She interrupted with surgical precision, cutting through answers before they could fully form, leaving opponents scrambling to reclaim the floor. She projected certainty, a confidence that brooked no challenge, and in doing so, she established herself as a figure who could dominate any debate. But there was a subtle fragility in this pattern. The louder the performance, the greater the reliance on the audience's perception of control. If faced with an opponent immune to provocation, her usual arsenal could lose its edge, and the very arrogance that fueled her attacks could become a liability. This was the backdrop against which Jasmine Crockett entered the frame. Conway's history, her aggressive style, and her tendency to escalate confrontations made it clear that Crockett's calm, measured presence would not be just admirable, it would be essential. Conway thrived on chaos, on rattling those who underestimated her, and the nation had learned to expect that the unexpected was always around the corner. What no one yet realized was that Crockett's composure, patience, and unwavering focus were precisely the qualities that could turn Conway's own tactics against her. In retrospect, Conway's entire career had prepared the world for this moment. A confrontation where arrogance met composure, where the old playbook of intimidation could collide with the force it could not destabilize. Every viral clip, every on-air eruption, every media headline had led to this point. And as the cameras focused once again on the studio desk, it was evident that Conway's history of dominance would now be tested in a way no one, including herself, could have predicted. Jasmine Crockett's story did not begin under bright studio lights or amidst the roar of live television audiences. It began in the quiet, unassuming spaces where character is forged through perseverance, integrity, and the unyielding belief that one voice, calm, measured, and resolute, can make a difference. From a young age, Crockett understood what it meant to navigate the complexities of identity and expectation. Growing up in communities that often felt overlooked, she witnessed firsthand the struggles of families striving for dignity, fairness, and opportunity. Those early experiences were not simply lessons in hardship, they were lessons in empathy, resilience, and the quiet power of steadfast resolve. Her path to public service was neither smooth nor predictable. Every step required navigating systems resistant to change, breaking through barriers of prejudice, and confronting challenges that demanded both intellect and courage. Crockett's education and early career reflected a commitment to truth and justice, not the pursuit of fame or fleeting recognition. She earned respect in legal circles for her meticulous attention to detail, her ability to dissect complex issues, and her unwavering dedication to fairness. Colleagues described her as someone who could sit across a table from the most seasoned adversaries and remain unflinching, listening, analyzing, and responding with precision that left no doubt about her integrity or competence. It was this combination of intellect and composure that made Crockett stand out, not just as a professional, but as a person. There were moments in courtrooms and council chambers where tempers flared, where stakes were high, and where decisions could alter the lives of countless individuals. In those moments, Crockett's calm was not passivity, it was power. Her measured voice, her ability to absorb provocation without losing clarity, and her commitment to facts over theatrics made her a figure people could trust, a leader whose influence was quiet but undeniable. Each victory, each precedent set, and each policy advanced reinforced the public perception of someone who could endure, adapt, and ultimately triumph in situations where others might falter. Yet Crockett's journey was also deeply personal. She carried the weight of her community's hopes and fears, the stories of families striving for justice, and the subtle, often invisible pressures that come with representing people who feel unheard. These experiences instilled in her an extraordinary sense of responsibility, but also a deep well of empathy that informed every interaction. Whether negotiating legislation, engaging constituents, or speaking publicly, Crockett demonstrated a rare combination. She could challenge authority without anger, confront injustice without losing dignity, and assert truth without resorting to spectacle. As her reputation grew, so did the challenges she faced. Political adversaries learned quickly that Crockett was not easily rattled, that she could remain composed even when others sought to provoke her. There were moments when colleagues or opponents misread her calm as weakness, only to discover that beneath it lay a mind sharp enough to anticipate arguments, a voice strong enough to counter misinformation, and a presence commanding enough to turn tension into clarity. Those who underestimated her did so at their peril. It was precisely this blend of intellect, restraint, and moral clarity that prepared Crockett for the confrontation that would soon unfold on live television. When Conway raised her voice, attempted to dominate the conversation, and sought to unsettle her, Crockett would not respond with matching aggression. Instead, she would deploy the skills honed over years of public service, legal battles, and advocacy. Her calm was not passive, it was strategic, a deliberate choice to meet chaos with composure, spectacle with reason, and provocation with dignity. The stage was set. The studio lights, the cameras, and the audience, both live and virtual, waited for the exchange that would capture national attention. Conway's fiery temperament had been on full display, a testament to a career built on volume and performance. But Crockett's history, forged through personal struggle and tempered by public service, hinted at a different kind of power, the kind that did not rely on intimidation, on shouting, or on theatrics, but on the undeniable force of integrity and self-possession. And as viewers would soon witness, Crockett's preparation, her patience, and her unwavering commitment to truth would meet Conway's aggression head-on. The confrontation was imminent, and the tension in the studio was almost palpable. Every second that ticked by brought the audience closer to a moment that would define not only the exchange itself, but the broader narrative of composure versus chaos, dignity versus spectacle, and strategy versus instinct. The question lingered: could Crockett's calm withstand the storm? And could her measured response turn what seemed like a volatile eruption into a defining triumph? The cameras returned from the brief commercial, and the tension in the studio was almost tangible. Conway leaned forward again, eyes narrowing, voice sharp. "You don't see the bigger picture here, Ms. Crockett," she snapped, her words slicing through the air like a blade. "The consequences of ignoring these policies are massive, and frankly, you're oversimplifying reality." Crockett's gaze remained steady, Her hands rested lightly on the desk, her posture open but unwavering. Respectfully, she began, her tone calm yet firm. The reality I represent is lived every day by families and communities who are too often ignored. In these debates, oversimplification is not the issue, it's denial of their experience that we need to address. A ripple of murmurs passed through the audience. Conway's lips tightened. Her eyes flicked toward the control booth as if seeking reinforcement. Denial, she barked, rising slightly in her chair, the microphone picking up every sharp inflection. You call that denial? You think presenting half-truths helps anyone? Crockett did not flinch. Instead, she leaned in slightly, her voice measured, deliberate. Half-truths only persist when the louder voice drowns out the full story. The people deserve clarity, Ms. Conway, not theatrics. For a moment, the studio seemed to hold its breath. Conway's nostrils flared. A flash of frustration crossed her face. She jabbed a finger toward the camera. You're not listening. This is bigger than your individual stories, bigger than what you think is justice. Crockett's response was almost serene, the calmness in her voice amplifying the contrast. I am listening, she said, eyes locking with Conway's, and that's why I speak, not to dominate, but to ensure the facts are clear. Because when chaos fills the room, truth is what gets lost. Audience members shifted in their seats. Some gasped, others exchanged incredulous glances. The tension escalated further when Conway, exasperated, slammed her palm on the desk. You don't understand. You're naive if you think this approach will work. Crockett's brow remained relaxed, her tone never rising. Naivety assumes ignorance. What I offer is consideration, and that is the only way forward when decisions impact real lives. Conway's smirk faltered. A hint of uncertainty crept into her eyes. She leaned back, attempting a forceful laugh, but it sounded hollow. The contrast was undeniable, one figure driven by fury, the other by unshakable focus. The cameras captured every nuance, the twitch of an eyebrow, the tightening of a jaw, the subtle nods of audience members recognizing the composure in the face of aggression. Minutes stretched, each one amplifying the suspense. Conway's attacks became sharper, her interruptions more frequent. Yet Crockett maintained her rhythm, turning each confrontation into an opportunity to assert clarity. The room seemed suspended between expectation and disbelief, every viewer sensing that a turning point was imminent. And then, just as Conway opened her mouth to strike again, there was a pause, a subtle shift in Crockett's posture, a slight tightening of her fingers, a calmness that spoke volumes. The audience felt it instinctively. The moment of reckoning was near. Conway's fury, for all its volume and intensity, had met its match in quiet strength. What was about to come next would not just silence the room, it would redefine the confrontation entirely, leaving viewers across the nation on the edge of their seats, anticipating a response that none could ignore. Let's be clear, Crockett said, her tone measured but resonant. This isn't about volume. It's about accountability. And it's about the people who live the consequences of the policies we debate. Another pause, long enough to let the words settle, to allow the weight of responsibility to press on Conway's aggressive stance. The communities I represent are not statistics to be shouted over. They're mothers, fathers, young adults, and elders whose lives depend on reasoned discussion and fair leadership. And when facts are ignored in favor of theatrics, those lives are diminished. A faint murmur ran through the audience. Even Conway, moments ago towering with unrestrained energy, blinked and hesitated. Her smirk faltered, the calculated aggression that had defined her moments earlier wavered. Crockett continued, each word delivered with precision, each sentence punctuated by a cadence that made clarity unavoidable. The truth is not loud. The truth is deliberate. It cannot be drowned by anger, nor can it be hidden behind raised voices or sharp gestures. She let those words hang, allowing their weight to settle like a stone in the hearts of viewers. Then came the pivot, a rhetorical strike that drew gasps from the studio audience. And let's not mistake noise for leadership. The people demand solutions, not spectacle. They demand courage, not intimidation. They demand someone who can stand firm in principle without losing sight of humanity. That is the leadership they deserve, and that is the leadership I offer. Each syllable reverberated, each pause calibrated to maximize impact. The contrast between Conway's escalating agitation and Crockett's serene authority had never been more pronounced. The tension in the studio became almost tangible. Conway attempted to interrupt, to reclaim control, but Crockett anticipated every move. Please, she said, her voice lowering slightly, commanding attention without aggression. Let me finish. Because this is not about who shouts the loudest. It's about who listens, who understands. and who acts responsibly. She cited recent legislation, referenced community feedback, and highlighted tangible results from her office, weaving facts into a narrative so seamless it left Conway momentarily speechless. Each reference was a precision strike, a demonstration of preparation and expertise that could not be dismissed. Astor's social media feeds, already alive with clips of the confrontation, began to erupt in real time. Hashtags appeared within seconds, trending across platforms. Hashtag CrockettCom, hashtag Truth Over Noise, hashtag McDropMoment. Commentators, influencers, and viewers alike marveled at the clarity and composure on display. Memes began circulating that juxtaposed Conway's animated gestures with Crockett's poised demeanor, amplifying the spectacle of contrast. The crowd in the studio leaned forward, caught between admiration and disbelief. Every reaction reinforced the narrative. Crockett had seized control without ever raising her voice. And she continued, shifting to address the broader implications, a masterclass in rhetoric and poise. "The people are watching," she said, scanning the room and the cameras with a composed intensity. "They are watching how we treat facts, how we engage with each other, and how we define leadership. They will remember who chose spectacle over substance, and who chose responsibility over self-interest." The pause afterward was profound, allowing the audience, both live and virtual, to absorb the full magnitude of the statement. Conway's jaw tightened. The flurry of interruptions she had relied upon for years now seemed inadequate, even hollow. Crockett's next line drew audible gasps. "Leadership is not a performance. It is a commitment. It is the ability to confront difficult truths calmly, to guide with integrity, and to ensure that our communities feel seen, heard, and valued. That is the courage that shapes policy, that strengthens society, and that earns trust." The audience erupted in applause, yet Crockett maintained her composure, letting the response rise around her without participating in the emotional release. Every hand clap, every cheer, every head nod underscored the power of calm decisiveness in the face of chaos. The crescendo of her counterattack came when she summarized the confrontation with surgical precision. "And for those who confuse volume with authority, remember this: authority earned through intimidation is fleeting. Authority earned through consistency, clarity, and courage endures. It inspires, it uplifts, it changes lives." She let the final words settle like a deliberate punctuation mark, a mic drop moment that needed no theatrics. Its impact spoke for itself. Conway's expression, once confident and domineering, now betrayed uncertainty. The aura of dominance had shifted, and the balance of power in the room had decisively tipped. Across social media, the response was instantaneous. Clips went viral within minutes. Political analysts dissected each line, praising Crockett's composure, strategic brilliance, and ability to turn aggression into a platform for reason. Viewers shared the segments repeatedly, framing Crockett as the embodiment of integrity, calm, and leadership under pressure. Comments flooded in. "Finally, someone who shows real courage. This is how leadership should look. Watch and learn. This is the standard." The ripple effect was immediate, affirming that the moment had transcended television. It had entered the cultural consciousness. And as the cameras lingered on the stunned faces of the studio audience, as hashtags continued to trend and commentators scrambled to capture the significance, one undeniable truth emerged: Jasmine Crockett had turned to confrontation, designed to destabilize her, into a masterclass in composure and leadership. Conway's fury, for all its force, had met an unshakable calm that amplified Crockett's credibility and left viewers in awe. The stage was set for the aftermath, the social media shockwaves, and the viral response that would dominate headlines. Every second following this exchange promised to spread further, igniting debate, admiration, and reflection nationwide. What had just unfolded was not merely a television moment, it was a defining act, one that would be remembered as the instance where dignity, strategy, and courage triumphed over chaos and aggression. The moment the segment ended, the studio lights dimmed, but the echoes of Jasmine Crockett's composure reverberated far beyond the television set. Social media exploded, almost instantaneously. Clips of the exchange, particularly the calm precision of Crockett's responses against Conway's escalating fury, were uploaded, retweeted, and shared at a speed that made the internet pause in collective astonishment. Hashtags began trending. Within minutes, hashtag CrockettCom, hashtag Truth Over Noise, hashtag McDropMoment. Each one became a rallying point for viewers eager to celebrate integrity, composure, and reason over spectacle. Memes flooded timelines, contrasting Conway's frantic gestures with Crockett's poised, measured posture. One viral image captured Conway mid-shout beside a still. Serene Crockett with the caption, "Chaos versus composure. Guess who wins?" Another meme, circulating widely, depicted Crockett as a lighthouse in a storm. Conway's flailing arms rendered as waves crashing futilely against her calm. The public's response was not just amusement, it was validation of what many have felt, but rarely witnessed, that true power can exist without aggression. That dignity can be louder than rage. Asterisk news outlets quickly picked up the narrative. Headlines varied from analytical to celebratory. Jasmine Crockett stuns nation with calm mastery on live TV. When poise defeats fury, the viral moment everyone is talking about. And Kellyanne Conway rattled by Crockett's composure nation reacts. Analysts dissected the exchange, praising Crockett's strategic brilliance, the eloquence of her rhetoric, and her ability to absorb chaos without faltering. Some commentators described the segment as a turning point in political discourse, a rare instance where civility, preparation, and integrity commanded the attention of millions. Asterisk even celebrities and influencers joined the conversation. Tweets and Instagram posts applauded Crockett's restraint, comparing her to historic figures renowned for standing firm in the face of intimidation. Public figures commented on the lessons embedded in the exchange, emphasizing the importance of listening, measured responses, and the courage to maintain dignity under pressure. Viewers from all walks of life felt a sense of shared participation. They were not merely observing a viral clip, they were witnessing history, part of a collective reckoning with what leadership and civility could look like in modern media. Asterisk political. Pundits debated the implications for Conway's reputation for years. Her confrontational style had dominated television interviews, relying on aggression to assert control. Yet Crockett's performance revealed the vulnerability in that approach. When faced with steadfast composure, the strategy falters. The pundits highlighted how the exchange had already shifted public perception, inspiring conversations not just about policy, but about character, temperament, and what it means to lead effectively. Social validation layered onto the narrative, reinforcing Crockett's triumph as both tactical and moral. Across comment sections, forum threads, and video reactions, ordinary viewers expressed a mix of awe and inspiration. Many described feeling personally validated, as if Crockett's calm strength mirrored the resilience they sought in their own lives. The collective energy created a sense of momentum, a recognition that this was more than a television segment, it was a cultural moment, a demonstration that courage and composure could disrupt expectation and command respect in a world often ruled by volume. Asterisk even internationally, the story found traction. News aggregators highlighted the viral exchange, and journalists in multiple countries cited it as an example of political discourse, defined by clarity and restraint. Analysts remarked on the unusual yet powerful optics, an individual facing public aggression, standing firm, and redefining the parameters of authority. Crockett had not only defended her position, she had reframed the entire conversation, transforming what could have been chaos into a demonstration of leadership, empathy, and intelligence. Asterisk by the end of the evening, the ripple effect was undeniable. Social media metrics, trending graphs, and media coverage collectively told a story of triumph, one validated not by ratings alone, but by public sentiment. Viewers were engaging, sharing, and discussing with fervor, signaling that the encounter had transcended its immediate context to become a symbolic touchstone. In the wake of Conway's aggressive outburst, Crockett's calm had not only survived, it had dominated, creating a shared narrative that resonated across political lines, demographics, and communities. Asterisk, and as the nation absorbed the viral moments, the memes, and the commentary, one message crystallized with clarity: dignity, calm, and truth could prevail over aggression. The aftermath was more than social media chatter. It was a cultural reckoning, a collective acknowledgement that heroism is often quiet, strategic, and unwavering. From the studio to living rooms, from tweets to op-eds, viewers could sense that this moment was historic, a lesson in courage under fire, and a prelude to the larger reflection on values that would follow. Asterisk as the dust settled on the studio floor, the larger significance of the confrontation became unmistakable. What viewers had witnessed was not merely a clash of personalities, but a profound demonstration of principle in action. Jasmine Crockett's composure under pressure revealed the truth, too often overlooked in public discourse, that courage does not always roar, that strength is not always visible in volume, and that integrity can prevail even when the world expects spectacle. This was a lesson that transcended politics. It was a lesson about human character, leadership, and the power of staying grounded in one's convictions. Asterisk the confrontation had provided a stark contrast between two approaches to power: Conway's aggression, fueled by indignation and performance, had sought to overwhelm and dominate. It relied on noise, on intimidation, on the assumption that force of personality could substitute for substance. Crockett, in response, demonstrated a different kind of authority, one rooted in clarity, preparation, and moral certainty. Her calm was not passivity, it was strategy. Her measured words cut through the chaos, delivering insight and truth in a way that could not be ignored. In that calm, viewers found a model for how to respond to pressure, provocation, and the unpredictability of life. Asterisk audiences at home, witnessing this contrast, experienced a moment of reflection. Many recognized themselves in Crockett's stead, navigating environments that demanded restraint, responding to challenges with patience and reason, and maintaining dignity in the face of hostility. The viral response on social media, the memes, the hashtags, and the commentary were not just entertainment, they were validation that the qualities of composure, courage, and integrity are admired, celebrated, and impactful. Crockett's victory was public, yes, but it also served as a quiet reminder that each individual holds the power to influence their own world by choosing principle over performance. The lessons extended beyond the political arena. Leadership, as exemplified by Crockett, is about listening before speaking, weighing facts before reacting, and responding with intentionality rather than impulse. It is about understanding that true influence comes not from overwhelming others, but from elevating the conversation, guiding it with reason, and modeling the behavior we hope to see reflected in society. Her actions reminded viewers that strength under pressure is cultivated, not given. That respect is earned through consistency and thoughtfulness, not volume or theatrics. This confrontation also offered a reflection on cultural values. In a media landscape often dominated by outrage and sensationalism, Crockett's approach stood as a counterbalance. She proved that calm could be compelling, that reason could captivate an audience, and that dignity could outshine aggression. For immigrant communities, marginalized groups, and anyone striving to assert identity and values in challenging environments, her example was profoundly inspiring. It was a demonstration that one could maintain authenticity, speak truth, and remain unshaken, even when facing the full force of opposition. And yet, the resonance of the moment was as much about what it inspired as what it demonstrated. Viewers were invited to internalize the qualities they had witnessed: composure in adversity, courage in the face of provocation, and integrity even when under scrutiny. It was a call to action in the most fundamental sense, not a demand to shout louder, but an encouragement to live with intention, to choose clarity over chaos, and to understand that influence grows when it is rooted in principle rather than performance. In a world where anger dominates headlines, one voice showed the power of calm, and the world noticed. Jasmine Crockett's measured, articulate, and unwavering stance left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. It was a reminder that leadership, respect, and lasting impact are defined not by the loudest voice in the room, but by the strength of character that refuses to be shaken. The confrontation was over, but its lessons remained, echoing far beyond the studio into living rooms, feeds, and hearts across the nation. The cameras faded to the closing frame, but the impact of the confrontation lingered in every viewer's mind. Kellyanne Conway's fiery outburst had dominated the headlines, yet it was Jasmine Crockett's calm, deliberate responses that defined the story. The contrast between chaos and composure, spectacle and substance, arrogance and integrity had played out in real time, leaving an unforgettable mark on those who watched. This wasn't just a televised debate, it was a testament to the power of character, the influence of preparation, and the enduring strength of dignity under pressure. As the discussion rippled across social media, viewers became part of something bigger, a collective recognition that leadership is about clarity, courage, and consistency. Every hashtag shared, every clip reposted, every conversation sparked added to the momentum, transforming a moment in a studio into a national conversation. It was proof that one person, standing firm in their principles, could inspire countless others to demand better, expect more, and uphold the values that matter. Now it's your turn to carry that momentum forward. Stand for dignity. Stand for truth. Share this story and be part of the conversation. Engage with those around you. Debate with intention. And celebrate the moments when integrity prevails over intimidation. Subscribe to follow more stories that reveal courage under fire, challenge the status quo, and spotlight the heroes who shape our world through principle rather than performance. This story reminds us that in a world where anger often dominates the headlines, calm, clarity, and courage can change the narrative. Carry that lesson into your own life, your own communities, and your own decisions. Witness the triumph of integrity. Remember the power of composure. And let this moment inspire you to act with intention every day.